大怪盗アルセーヌ・ルパンが残した不思議な宝物ルパンコレクションがギャングラーに奪われた。失ったものを取り戻すために戦う怪盗、世界の平和を守るために戦う警察、君はどっちを応援する？
Hello, and welcome to LupinRecap vs. PatReview, the podcast that's stirring up a storm. I am your host, Lokabasi, and with me is my co-host, Fefner Masamune.
Hello, there's a cat on my mic wire.
Yes, Fefner has her cat in the room, and since she's not a monster, she's not kicking them out. So if you hear purring, that's what that is.
Yep.
That's our special guest for this episode.
Alright, so, what are we talking about today?
Today, we are covering Episode 8, The Thieves' Identities. But before that, I thought we'd talk about a sort of recurring part of most Sentai, and that is maintaining a recurring threat. How do you have a threat show up multiple times and still be threatening each time? Lupa gives us two very obvious examples, Daestra and Gauche. We can probably guess Zamiga will be on that list, but he's not done anything yet.
Other than, murder important family members, but
he's not done
outside of
anything in the present yet. But yeah, that's why we know he'll come back. We've not seen how the show is going to establish him in that way. But when it comes to a recurring threat, the important thing is how do you show these people are scary and not just have them kill the protagonists? How are they threatening without being the ultimate threat?
Ironically, I think part of the thing that helps that is actual progression with how they appear. Like, it gets kind of boring if the villain just stomps the hero every time. Like, there has to be, some change from fight to fight, which is part of the reason said threat can't appear too often, because if they appear too often, either the hero isn't gaining enough ground over time, or they're gaining too much, and then suddenly the bad guy is not really a threat anymore.
Yeah. As far as this show has only had one appearance of the recurring threats in the fight each, and we've technically not covered Ghost yet. That's this episode.
Yep.
But I think they established them in separate ways.
Oh, yeah.
Daestra is established as being a threat by just being terrifying.
Yeah, he is just large and imposing and explosive.
And he just immediately... I think he's the first Ganglar to really charge at the Lupin Rangers.
I think so, yeah.
The rest, the Rangers usually come to them, but he spins his hammer around and is ready to bring the hammer down.
Yep. Gauche, meanwhile, we won't talk about her just yet, completely. However, despite the fact that we've seen her and one of her safe powers in action, there has been a fair bit of mystery so far. There's going to continue being a mystery surrounding her in the future.
Mm-hmm. And that, brings me to the second point of why the fight isn't resolved right here and right now, in either direction. Why doesn't the enemy kill the hero? Why doesn't the hero kill the enemy?
Mm-hmm.
With Daestra, it's implied that he just got so upset at Bundle that he had to go chase him down personally and didn't want to play with the Rangers anymore.
Yeah.
So, I could kill you, but I'm so mad at my idiot subordinate. And I have to go kill him first.
It is usually just, some failing on the villain's part. A lot of people in me, when observing media, like to ask, oh, well, why doesn't this villain kill the hero right now? Because it's a character flaw. Villains can have those too.
Yeah. Like
Girahim from Skyward Sword. Why didn't he kill Link in the first temple? Because it's fucking Girahim.
He has to look as cool as possible, and killing the hero off in the first temple is not how you look as cool as possible.
Also, a bit of a sidetrack, but that is sort of the kind of thing I'm talking about in terms of, progress, in that first Temple Girahim fight's actually pretty hard, and then you get a second one later on which is a bit different, but it's a little easier. He has more tricks, but also, so do you, and also you skip, one of the phases entirely. So there's actual progress, and by the end, unlike the first fight with him where he's just I'm still smug, bye, that time you actually managed to tick him off.
But speaking of characters being smug and not caring, I won't go too far into it, but that's generally Gauche's deal.
Yep.
Like, she leaves early because she got bored, more or less. And you can do that once.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you do it too often, it becomes a problem in that it just gets repetitive, and it's sort of a thing that gets on some people's nerves anyways, even if you only do it once.
That's too much of a character flaw at that point.
Given what we've already seen of Ghosh before this fight, it's totally believable that she would just go, I'm bored, later.
Yep. And besides, she's pretty active most of the time anyway. So, lack of interest is kind of her thing, though it'll be a little different this episode. Well, actually, one more thing. I did actually think of one more example of a recurring villain who actually kind of gets weaker over time, and, oh shoot, I forgot his name. It's the main frickin' villain of last scenario.
Ortis?
I think so.
Or is it Castor?
No, it's Castor, yeah.
Okay, who the hell is Ortis in that game?
I think he's one of the kings that just fucking dies partway through.
Okay, so he's...
It's kind of hard to keep track of everyone. Yeah.
You can keep track of it when you're playing it because the portraits are distinct, but yeah, it's a little hard to start talking about it. Yeah, Castor is actually pretty interesting because the moment when things start to turn around, it pushes him to get better.
Yeah.
So he actively tries to become a more potent threat in
he
response
has
to
a
you.
curve in that he starts out as a threat, is less of a threat, then a non-issue, then a threat, then the last boss.
Spoilers for last scenario, I guess.
Sorry.
It's fine. It's last scenario goes in so many different directions that is not enough of a spoiler to really ruin the experience.
Yeah.
But enough vague hinting at what's to come in this episode. Let's just get right into it. Fafner, do you mind?
Alright, so, Episode 8, The Thieves' True Identities. Any alternate title?
I don't think Overtime has true.
Okay.
But that's just being a little pedantic at that point.
Okay, so, we open up on what I can only assume is going to be a great day for the Podamen, who will probably have an easy, uneventful patrol, then go have a good, satisfying lunch. Of course not. 10 seconds in and the Phantom Thieves get their attention.
I was going to say, oh look, those Podamen are passing around family photos.
Yeah,
that one's a week away from retirement.
So the Phantom Thieves Kaido change, not giving any mercy whatsoever to these mooks. Oh well. We know how that fight's going to go, so we turn our attention to the cops. Tsukasa has just shared her theory on the identities of the Lupin Rangers. Sakia objects, of course, so Tsukasa asks Jim to pull up the information on the 3 delinquents of Bistro Juror. Kyrie's parents died earlier on in his life, so he'd been living with his brother up until he graduated, at which point he became a live-in employee of Juror. Kaichiro mentions that he looks like a goof, which I can only assume means he doesn't remember their park encounters, if goof is the only word that comes to mind. I guess Kaichiro's white-hot rage makes him forget faces. Tuma worked at a French restaurant called Seal Blue. So, yes, Tuma is Mr. Blue Sky, and I worry that his previous career is just a bit too on the nose considering he's the Blue Ranger. Makes it too obvious. But he quit the previous year, and Jim suspects that it's due to his fiancée, who was rumored to have run out on him. Oh, cruel lack of witnesses. Now, you'd think the surveillance robot could have figured out that Aya's no longer anywhere on the Earth due to having exploded.
I was gonna wait until we got through all of them, but isn't it weird that they just keep referring to people disappearing and not fucking dying?
Yeah, so I guess literally the only witnesses were the Lupin Rangers.
I guess. It's just really weird in the year of our Lord 2018 where everything is being recorded for there to be that sort of mass murder that people just think is a mass disappearance.
Yeah. Also, I forget, in the flashback, when Kyrie's in the alleyway at night, is the ice still there?
I don't think so. I don't remember seeing any ice.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, it would probably melt, but like, did it not melt for Kyrie?
I think it shatters completely and leaves literally nothing, not even like a chunk of ice. It just shatters into snowflakes and blows away.
Alright. So, Jim moves on to Umika. Sakia makes a comment. Moving on, Umika had dropped out of an all-girls high school in the previous year, lining up with the other two in their appearance at Bistro Jour. In this instance, though, the cops actually know about the disappearances connected to the nearby location. Sakia figures that one of her friends must have disappeared, a correct guess, then tells Tsukasa that Umika could never be a phantom thief, an incorrect guess. Director Hilltop assumes that Tsukasa wants to arrest the Phantom Thieves on the spot, which would be an overreach of their authority. Tsukasa, however, has a different plan to catch the three. All they need to do is monitor them, and if their pattern lined up with the Phantom Thieves, they'd have all the proof they needed to make an arrest. We then cut over to the Lupin Rangers, who use their special attack to finish off all but one of the mooks. The strongest Potoman of all makes his escape and seems to disappear into thin air.
He then proceeded to buy a lottery ticket.
I'm just thinking of the line choked on a winning lottery ticket from, God, I think that was Ask a Ninja. That old thing. But it's a
the
phrase
ultimate irony.
But God, I love that phrase. Anyway, Kogure's intel mentioned something hidden in the area, but the group decides to retreat for the time being. We get a dramatic zoom in on the blank white wall, and cut to the intro. I should also mention, I guess, we don't cut away completely from the Potomen fight. As each Lupin Ranger's being mentioned, we see them just in the fray shooting some Potomen like it was no thing.
Yeah, the fight is intercut with the exposition dump. Like how in Game of Thrones, whenever somebody is discussing exposition, they'll just cut to random people having sex. It's like that, but good. It's like that, but tolerable.
So that's an actual thing, huh?
I'm assuming people aren't lying to me when they say that. I only read the first book and just couldn't work up the time and interest to get through the rest.
All right.
And I never watched the show.
So, after the break, we return to Bistro Jour. Umika's busy as usual, which means Kairi is nowhere to be found. Tsukasa is observing the scene from across the road, though Sakia thinks they should just stop. He says he doesn't want to suspect them, but let's be honest, he just means Umika. He's probably ambivalent on Kairi and Tuma.
I feel like I need to thank just the writers in general for not having Sakia fight over the binoculars to look at Umika. Thank God that didn't happen.
Yeah, no, he's not an uber creep. Sure, yeah, he's just super harping on the point of Umika has to be innocent, but it's not skeevy, it's just, I don't know, Sakia, maybe you're letting your crush dictate your feelings too much.
He's like an 8-year-old with a crush.
No, they could never be a Phantom Thief, it's impossible. Meanwhile, Kairi's being useful. Not, like, situationally so, but he's investigating that one Potoman's last location. As he looks over the extremely suspicious blank wall, he's being observed by Kaiichiro. Before Kairi can uncover the secret of the wall, likely blowing his cover, Good Striker appears and warns Kairi from within his shirt. Because he's just there all of a sudden.
It's a good thing. And it's a good thing Good Striker did that, because there was no way he could have known that Keiichiro was following him.
How Kaiichiro didn't notice the plastic toy against his chest, I have no idea.
And how Kairi didn't notice Keiichiro, I also have no idea.
So yes, Goody's being helpful as he tips Kairi off that the global police are watching him, and behind him we see Kaiichiro being incredibly inconspicuous. Just could not find the guy, even if you were looking for him. There are so many good images you could use for this episode, but I feel like Kaiichiro just hanging off of that pole is like the best one. So, Kairi returns to Jour with the news, but suspects that their identities haven't been discovered outright, since the cops would have come at them with force if they had concrete proof. But with the cops on their trail, they can't go about their business, which is especially troubling given they're looking for a Ganglar base. Good Striker wanders in and asks them why they became Phantom Thieves.
Just in case, you decided to start with episode 8 and wouldn't know.
Yeah, he hasn't even been paying attention in his own episodes. So Kairi deflects the question and asks Goody if he had heard their story from Kogure, but Goody mentions that he hasn't seen Kogure recently. Umika pipes up and mentions how they'd all lost somebody important to them, and their wish could be granted if they obtained the Lupin collection. Goodstriker mentions how that sounds like something he'd come up with.
What's this? Manipulating young adults into doing his bidding? That sounds like Kogure.
For some reason, no one bothers asking Goody what he means by that, despite how incredibly suspicious that line is.
I know! He just throws Kogure under the bus. They're like, this dude is sketchy as hell, and no one cares.
Yeah, instead, Tuma asks why Goody bothered coming to warn them. Goody wants to protect the collection as well, even if he does help the police every now and then. Umika suddenly gets a text from Sakia, who wants to know if she will be at Juro tomorrow. She responds with her usual disdain, assuming he's going to ask for a date. But Tuma realizes just how suspicious the question is while they're being surveyed by the police. The thieves wonder just what the cops are trying to pull the next day. Back at Police HQ, the cops are frustrated by their lack of progress. Kaichiro tells Saki to stop playing with his phone. Saki responds by saying that Umika will be at work all day tomorrow and everyone else just thinks he's fooling around. But as it turns out, Sakia has a plan. Since Umika is going to be at Juro all day, they can leak fake information about a Ganglar appearing. If the three at Bistro Juro really are the Phantom Thieves, they would fall for the bait and leave the restaurant. Director Hilltop wonders if they could really use fake information since the Phantom Thieves seem to have their own information network, but Kaichiro realizes that Kairi was acting strangely around the Hamagaski purification plant, which would be a good spot to put a plan into action. The only problem is, where are they gonna get a fake Ganglar? Near the purification plant, Kaichiro uses tape to attach a safe to Jim Carter's head. A group of officers, disguised as workers, are there to help the act. Back at Juro, Tsukasa and Sakia arrive for lunch and ask where Kairi is, but according to Tuma, he's on break. Tsukasa decides not to worry about it, and the cops take a seat. Kaichiro then gives them the go-ahead to start the operation, and gives the signal for Jim to start pretending to terrorize the decoys.
Yes, pretending.
Yes, pretending. Tsukasa takes a deep breath to prepare for acting mode, and both she and Sakia stand up suddenly, mentioning that a Ganglar has appeared. But of course, they don't leave for the crime scene. Tsukasa and Sakia get into position and keep a lookout for Umika and Tuma, leaving the restaurants.
I have one note about this scene. Sakia left a fucking tip.
For not having a meal.
Yes, he put down money for the order that didn't even get made. And then said, keep the change.
God.
No, wait, I don't think that happened. I think he just left money on the table, which means he left a tip for no pay, for no meal.
Good boy Sakia is just maybe sometimes a little too nice.
Between that and the whole looks like he's playing on his phone but is actually doing investigative work, Sakia is a true millennial. Finally, a character I can relate to.
So, Sakia is positive that Tuma and Umika won't leave because he believes in Umika. Man, that is one powerful crush. Back at the plant, Jim is really beating on these officers. He suplexes a man. He just straight up suplexes a man.
Well, Fefner, you know what they say. You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit into the wind. You don't pull the mask on the old Lone Ranger, and you don't mess around with Jim.
That's me clapping.
Thank you.
I hope that appears in the audio.
I'd like to apologize to Jim Croce. He deserved better than that. Also, Jim was programmed to hold grudges.
Yeah, Kaichiro wonders if he's really acting when he notices the Lupin Rangers entering the scene.
Oh, did you mention his Ganglar name?
I don't think I did. I might have missed it.
It's Enemy Carter. That's it.
I didn't realize that was supposed to be his Ganglar name.
The overtime subtitles wrote it down weirdly, like it's the letter N apostrophe EMY, and then Carter is spelled Karta. So it stood out to me more as like a Ganglar name.
Oh my god.
Because of the weird romanizations.
The Lupin Rangers jump down and confront Jim. Kaitro tells his companions that the Lupin Rangers have appeared on the scene, but Tsukasa and Sakia haven't seen Umika or Tuma leave the restaurant. Meanwhile, the Lupin Rangers approach Jim, who, in a moment of panic, tries to figure out an alternative way to keep the three busy. He instead asks the Rangers to solve his riddle, much to the surprise of every cop on the scene.
This scene was just short of who would be stupid enough to fall for that.
After a moment, Jim thinks of something. It sticks to Manaka and Manju, but doesn't stick to Doriaki. What is it? Kaitro almost blows his cover by telling Jim that the Phantom Thieves will never fall for a riddle. But they do. Back at the stakeout, Tsukasa thinks that there may be a hidden exit to the restaurant. But when she runs in, Umika and Tuma are still there. But she realizes that Kairi still isn't accounted for and demands to see him. But Kairi comes down of his own accord, and far more polite than he normally is. We then return again to the plant, where Jim decides to just skate away before the Lupin Rangers can catch him. Red's more disappointed that he won't hear the answer to the riddle. The cops contact one another, and Tsukasa has come to the conclusion that the thieves are still at Jure, which means Kaitro can just up and arrest them. Except they've left. Honestly, it's not like Kaitro would have caught them on his own anyway, so I don't know what his grand plan here was. Jim Carter, now tired, tries to lean against a building. Except it's that suspicious blank building, which means he's the first person, or robot I guess, to discover that secret entrance on screen.
Why can he be tired?
Seems like a bad design.
What the hell is his design? Who did this? He gets frustrated, he gets tired? Like,
we made a robot that fucks up on purpose.
Why?
As a joke. So, back at Jure, Kogure removes his Kairi disguise, which, as his thieves snicker at, is a bit imperfect because Kogure needs platform shoes to reach Kairi's height. And on Red's end, his two cohorts throw off their own disguises, revealing that Red had actually used his duplication special move to fulfill his part of the plan. Goody brags and also compliments Kogure as well, which is unusual. But they then hear Jim Carter crying out, and Red discovers the secret base he'd been looking for. Within the base, the Ganglars have chained Jim to a table, and we see tables full of various, we'll say medical tools. As Red observes the scene from behind a pillar, he is approached by Ghosh, who blows his cover. She laments not being able to perform tests on live subject in peace, though, given the Podamen are here, I don't know how well she would have gotten along. I feel like they'd get in the way whether she hired them as assistants or not. Red starts firing, hitting only a few mooks, but not the ever-important doctor. Kaitro then arrives on the scene and throws a briefcase at a motherfucker and moves to save Jim.
Well, I thought that was the safe.
Jim then tells Kaitro that there are other prisoners in the base, and Kaitro goes to save them first. Red continues fighting the large group of mooks, but can't land a single decent shot on Ghosh. Ghosh then tells Red that she can see his strengths and weaknesses, and we get a short look at her other collection power. She dodges and deflects another volley, and changes out her safe pieces, at which point Red notices the initial collection piece is a pair of binoculars. Now, though, she uses her usual collection piece on a group of Podamen. Despite not being dead, the Podamen become giants. As the base collapses, Ghosh makes her escape, and Red activates his Zord and fires some shots at the big Podamen. It's not very effective, so it's a good thing Yellow and Blue appear out of nowhere to help him. They form the Lupin Kaiser, and Goody notes that he's sticking with the thieves all the way this time around. Because this is an episode where we only really get action scenes with the Lupin Rangers. It's a bit unusual since they usually change.
I'm okay with it, though.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
The cops still do things. It's just not in uniform. Not in the
Not-
Ranger uniform.
Not Uniform 2, the sequel to Uniform. They begin fighting, and things go about as well as you'd expect for the Podamen, even if they are big now. But it's not that uninteresting of a fight. Near the end, the Podamen hide behind some buildings and plan amongst one another. Their brilliant idea? Stacking. 3 of them lift up their 4th companion, who is holding a spear.
He just got from somewhere.
The Lupin Rangers are not impressed. The charge is deflected easily, and for some reason Red feels the need to equip the Cyclone for this fight. I know it's the new thing and all, but it's hardly necessary.
He was insulted by their final move.
A good feeling tornado / good striker rapid fire blowaway shot finishes off the big Podaman, as if there was ever any doubt. Back at Jur, Kogure expresses surprise at the fact that Good Striker actually did something helpful. Kairi takes the opportunity to tell Kogure about Gosha's binocular collection piece. We get a very suspicious close-up shot of Kogure's eyes as he tries to recall what said collection piece could be. Or maybe he's getting a critical hit, I don't know. Either way, Kogure claims he doesn't know what the power of that collection piece could be, and that he's going to go investigate. I think he's a liar. Back at Police HQ, the cops are doing some equally important pondering. They're still hung up on Jim's riddle. Oh, right, and Tsukasa's disappointed that her hunch turned out to be, we'll say wrong, despite dramatic irony saying different. But
her hunch could not be proven.
But Director Hilltop is happy that the Ganglar base was destroyed and the prisoners were saved. Saki is, of course, happy that Umika is innocent. Anyway, back to the riddle. Kaichiro still can't figure it out. The police are all stumped, and this humdinger of a brain teaser, whatever the heck humdinger means, I don't know. Director Hilltop pricks up suddenly, having figured out the answer. It's lips. Because your lips come together when pronouncing Monaka and Manju, but not when you pronounce Dorayaki. Everyone is impressed.
Yay.
So, you had a fact about that one that you mentioned in the episode when we watched it.
Yes, Hilltop's actor is named Ike Nwala. I might be mispronouncing his last name. And he appears in a lot of Japanese kids shows that, to my understanding, are sort of like analogs to Sesame Street. You know, they're supposed to teach kids things. So this part of him, like, directly addressing the audience and explaining a simple riddle is probably something he's done a lot. And it feels kind of like a reference to the actor.
Actor jokes are always pretty good.
I've seen some really, really bad ones.
Well,
I won't go into them because they're like...
fair. Okay, they're not always good, but this one is.
Yeah.
This one's goofy, and I like the actor and the character, so it's fine.
Yes.
Also, I do love how Kaichiro, like, despite being mad at Ganglars and Lupin Rangers and seeming like a serious person, does just enter this scene by being like, but what about that riddle, though? Like, before Tsukasa is even lamenting the fact that her hunch was, you know, proven to be incorrect at the moment.
We just cut to a different part of the HQ and he has a bunch of, like, words written on a chalkboard with red lines leading between all of them.
It is... Like, that's what I like about Kaichiro, though. Like, he does kind of detach from work rather easily at times. So he will just come into the break room, grab a sweet, and he's like, God, that riddle.
He cares very much about work, but he knows that he can't always be on.
Yep.
Sometimes you have to not think about work to do your job right.
And it also shows that, like, he's not at all disappointed in Tsukasa or anything, so, like, he's not worried about the situation.
Yeah. Honestly, I think Keiichiro was a little close to Sakia's motivation in that he was kind of wanting it not to be the juror trio.
Yeah.
We're in the post-episode discussion now, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Hello.
Recap's over. We're talking about character development now.
But yeah, it probably does come, just from a place of, we go there, they seem like nice people, I don't want them to be the Phantom Thieves.
Yeah, and when they reveal the backstories to the police, and they go through Kyrie's, I know he responds to Kyrie's. He says, like, oh, it sounds like he had a rough life.
Yep.
So I do think that he does care about the juror trio and doesn't want to arrest them.
Yeah.
He's just less vocal about it as Sakia. Also, when they say, like, okay, it's definitely not the juror trio, I was like, okay, I'm going to arrest them right now.
Yep. I guess he's sort of the in-between in this case, because he wants them to be innocent, but also he respects that Tsukasa does have a point, and that they should try to see if they can gather evidence.
Yeah, if he has to, he has to, but he's relieved that he doesn't have to.
Yep. Whereas Sakia is just, from the get-go, hey, I hope Umika's innocent, and also despite seemingly having a good idea, he is actually the reason the Phantom Thieves make it through this unscathed.
Yeah.
Because, the whole contacting Umika was kind of a clever plan, except nobody really realized, oh wait, what if they realize from this that we're suspecting them?
But they don't know that we know that they know that we know that they don't know that they know that we know.
Anyway, Good Striker is the reason this plan works. But Umika does kind of mess it up a little bit.
I also thought it was really effective use of the finishing move in this episode.
Yeah, that was such a neat idea.
To not finish off a tangible threat, but instead the intangible threat of being arrested.
Yep. And also, it does add a really clever hint to, what's actually going on during the plan. Because when the Reds discuss the riddle, that is almost exactly like how the Reds interacted in the was it episode 3? Yeah.
Yep. Also, I think you can only hear Kyrie's voice, and perhaps the most obvious clue, Lupin Blue didn't immediately figure it out.
Yeah.
So you can tell it's not Toma.
Yep.
I stick to Minaka, and Manju, it's lips. What? You're going to say, but not to Doriaki. The answer is lips.
And then he would have just slide tackled Jim.
Jim just, rips his taped safe off and throws, there, you got it! It's yours now! Congratulations! And then he leaves. Are the Ganglers gonna get even weirder from here on in?
So what other characters?
Normally we talk about the Ganglar, but...
We'll get to Gosha in a minute, but, Kogure. Admittedly, I didn't notice what was up with Kairi immediately because I wasn't looking down.
You weren't realizing all that. I don't think you can actually... I think it's just, I can't think of his actor's name. I think it's just the regular actor.
Well, yeah.
I don't think he's wearing the platform boots.
Okay.
Until the camera focuses on them.
Alright.
And it just seems weird for them to, do that, to let you see the platform boots before you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Because they put so many clues in how the fake Lupin Rangers interact.
Yeah, that you don't need as many for this scene. Also, admittedly, I wouldn't have guessed that Kogure would help them like this.
He has to make up for what he said last episode. He knows the audience heard that. He has to get on their good side again.
Better pretend to be helpful for a bit.
Also, this is, an interesting thing. When Good Striker's talking about Kogure's involvement, he's kind of, praising him, saying, oh, he did a good job, I'm glad he thought of this.
Yeah.
When Kogure talks about Good Striker, he's like, I'm surprised that layabout even helped us. What a jackass. I hate him.
Also, it is really weird that, suddenly Good Striker is less terrified of Kogure.
Yeah, they're never in the same room.
Oh, yeah,
so I think it might just be, if I can run away, I don't care.
There is a 50% chance that Kogure would just grab Good Striker and shove him in the book.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason he's still out is because he's actually useful.
Although, the fact that Kogure didn't take the Cyclone might tip Good Striker off to, okay, he's not throwing everything in the book. if the Rangers can use them, then they get to not be in the book.
So, let's see. Any other characters I have to talk about other than Gauche? I don't think so. Alright, so, Gauche. So, I guess this is kind of a continuation of what we were talking about at the beginning.
Yeah.
Her difference from Destra. So, where Destra was the big, explosive, imposing type, Gauche is the more agile, dodgy type.
Right. And personality-wise, while Destra is trying to, like, actively build up his own perception as a threat, Gauche is just here to have a good time.
Yeah, she's just laughing the entire time.
She looks like she's putting no effort into any of this.
Like, it doesn't even seem like some of the shots actually miss, they just kind of fizzle out or something.
She knew it was coming, so she can just, like, flick it away.
So, yeah, Destra controls the fight by being big. Gauche just does not care. She doesn't need to build anything. She's got nothing to prove.
Mm-hmm. He just knows where every attack is coming before they even make it.
And also, as I said at the beginning, there's still a bit of mystery to her, which is probably the most dangerous thing. I mean, granted, there's still mystery to Destra because he's got 2 safes and all, and he hasn't used either of his safe powers.
And
but
he's already so much of a threat without them.
Yeah, it doesn't...
He can only go up.
It doesn't really seem like the show's trying to make them seem like a big danger. I mean, they will be, but, like, they're not a mystery. Whereas, we're introduced to the binoculars, we sort of get a view through them, and we also have Kogure saying, like, oh, I don't know how those work, I'm gonna go look it up. So, Gauche remains intimidating because we still don't know how she works.
And the whole not taking anything seriously is kind of scary in its own right if done well.
Yep. She really doesn't care about life at all. Because she did just have those terrifying medical supplies. And thankfully she didn't actually get to experiment on anyone. Or at least anyone from this batch of people. Who knows if she'd gotten anyone before.
Well, she said finally a chance to experiment on live humans, which would imply she hasn't before.
Alright. On the other hand, dead ones probably had plenty of those.
It's also interesting that she has more on-screen collection pieces than Destra, despite having fewer safes.
Yep. Yeah, that's her big weakness, I guess, is that she can't do both at once, but, like, at the same time, is it really a big weakness since one of her tools isn't even for her, it's for something else?
One of them is strategically useful and the other is tactically useful.
Yep. Unless she can make herself big, but that's not going to happen for a while if she can.
But I think that's enough discussion on Gauche. Time to move on to the real Ganglar of the episode, Enemy Carter.
Oh man, what a powerful Ganglar.
I just have to note, not the least effective Ganglar, honestly.
He did suplex a man.
He stopped the Lupin Rangers in their tracks, which is more than Roulette Frog ever did. Jim Carter was capable of stopping the Lupin Rangers for 30 seconds, which is 30 seconds more than Roulette Frog. Who couldn't even fight them when they were, like, untransformed. What I want to know is, I just want to see, like, it looks like Jim Carter has been taken out, and then it just cuts to DeGranio and his office or whatever. Like, I don't recognize that one. But Gauche, give him another chance anyways. Like, sir, I really think this is a bad idea.
Come on. Just because he wasn't at the party doesn't mean I don't want to give him a chance.
It's clearly duct taped on.
What if DeGranio just grew to like Jim Carter so much that he actually made him the successor?
Show's over. Conflict's resolved.
I know you're not technically a Ganglar, but, like, I like your style, Jim Carter.
We got a cop in charge of the mob. We're done now. You can just end it.
So anyway.
I am, like, now that I thought of that, I do kind of wish they had a scene with Zagradio and Distro, like, what the hell? What even is this?
Is he a new guy?
Distro, go through the Rolodex. See if... Also, I guess those are wheels.
Yeah.
On Jim Carter. I managed to forget that.
Roller wheels.
He just has roller skates on at all times.
He's like Land from Mega Man Battle Network, just ready to skate at any moment. He's got Heelys.
God damn it.
He is the Heelys.
Oh god, what? Okay, we have to pinpoint at what year Jim Carter was made then. When were Heelys a thing?
Well, time to look it up.
While you're looking that up, I will point out why I'm not looking anything up. The only new collection piece introduced this episode wasn't given a name, so there's nothing to point out the references to.
Alright, so apparently Heelys Incorporated was founded May 2000.
Alright.
Jim's 18 years old. He's a teen now.
He's 18 and acts like he's 30.
He's 30 in robot years.
Mm-hmm. Alright, I guess that's all to say about Enemy Carter. I do kind of like Jim's overwhelming self-confidence at the end of the episode.
Yep.
Like, well, now I'm an esteemed actor now.
I am the puzzle master.
You can look for me on Broadway. I'll be playing Hamlet.
I'm an NPC in the next Professor Layton.
I'm picturing Jim Carter playing Hamlet and he's holding up, like, a circuit board instead of a skull. I'm not sure how much I have to talk about, but I do want to point out that the Pot Ranger's motivations get a little more explained or developed in this episode, in that we have the spectrum. It's weird that Keiichiro isn't, far to one side, and that it's Tsukasa instead, but I think that's just because of the circumstances.
Yeah.
Tsukasa wants to make an arrest no matter what, and they'll figure out everything else later. Keiichiro doesn't want to put them through an arrest until he knows for sure, and is, relieved, we've gone over this, relieved that it's not the Juror Trio. And Sakya is just, I'm not arresting Yumika.
Even if she's not a Phantom Thief, I won't arrest her. The other two, maybe, yeah.
You have to put me in a different room and not see it. But yeah, that was the main character development, was fleshing those three out. And it wasn't fleshed out too much, it's just kind of obvious if you watch the episode.
Yeah.
Although I do like the extra bit of how Keiichiro approaches his job. He's a little calmer as the show goes on.
Yep.
Lesson from, episode 6 has stuck with him.
He's calmer as long as he's not in a fight. And even then, I'm sure Fight Keiichiro's less angry now.
Although we do get a pretty good damn you, Lupin Rangers. When he finds out they're not there anymore.
Yep. Every damn you Lupin Ranger is a good damn you Lupin Ranger.
With that, there wasn't really a theme for me to talk about this episode. It was a bit more plot developing, kind of.
Yeah.
They set up the mystery with Ghosh. They have the Pot Rangers make a move early on so they don't look completely stupid, but they still get fooled.
Yep.
So, they're awake, but they're not able to actually figure it out yet.
Yeah, and, it is a legitimately clever plan on the Lupin Rangers' end.
Yeah, because, if you don't know that that's what they can do, because they haven't seen the split-apart finishing move yet.
Nope. And they don't know about Kogure. They only know that the thieves have an information network.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know that it's just a man who can appear out of nowhere.
And even if they did know it was Kogure, he's half of Kairi's height, so they wouldn't suspect him.
Yep.
But I think that brings us to an end on the post-episode discussion, unless you have something
let's
to talk
see.
about.
I don't think I have any predictions, so...
Well, you think Kogure is lying about not knowing what the binoculars do.
I don't know. I guess technically speaking, he wouldn't have a reason to keep that information from the thieves because not knowing the ability would prevent them from doing anything about it. But at the same
Yeah.
time, there's that cut to his eyes just immediately when they start mentioning it, so he knows something's up. That might have something to do with, like, what Destra was talking about a few episodes. About, like, the way the
The
collection pieces change, so...
how they're different.
Yeah. So I think it's more of that mystery, if anything. Though then Kogure might also know, like, what's going on in that respect. Kogure, talk to Destra. He needs to work some things out.
I also think it's interesting how good Striker has changed. We've mentioned he's not as distrustful of Kogure anymore.
Yep.
And I can't remember if that gets explained, really. Like, people latch on to Good Striker's initial reaction so much that I feel like they would have to address it some way, somehow. But I don't know if they do.
Still doesn't seem like Good Striker trusts him completely, though, because, again, there's that one line.
Yeah, and they're not in the same room. I also like how Good Striker isn't just a plot device. He has his own character motivations.
Yeah, like, he is the type to just do whatever he feels like doing, except he does apparently have, like, an actual goal. He also wants to help complete the collection. It's just, he also thinks that helping the police will allow him to do that at times.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's right.
Mm-hmm. If he has a good feeling, he has to follow up on it.
Yep.
Because I think he's helped the thieves more often to this point, but I still feel like he's helped the police more because the one time he did more than he's ever done of punching the Ganglar in the face, stealing the bike, and giving it to Keiichiro.
Yeah, that was actively helping the police at that point.
So with that brings our discussion to a close. If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at LRVSPR. If you want to send us an email, our email account is LupinRecap@PatReview@gmail.com. Email us if you want to guest on the show or just want us to read your email. If we missed something, you can obviously leave in the YouTube comments. We'll probably read every YouTube comment because there aren't very many of them so far. Our personal Twitters are @Lokomase, @Lokomasi, and @Fefner Masamune. And with that, we will see you in the next episode.
Adieu.